Because it's kind of always been my argument. The coolest thing about comedy, before I got into comedy, I'd never been anywhere in my life, and because of it, I've been to all 50 states, been to every part of all 50 states. And they always think in New York and LA that they know what we're like, the in-between, and I'm like, y'all have no idea. Because they didn't want to film the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. They were like, no, people won't get this. I said, yeah, they will, because I've been out there. They'll get it. And thank you, God, you do. I remember one time I was in a meeting in LA, and the guy, he had on like some kind of purple turtleneck and a velvet jacket, and he had his hair all gelled in a ponytail and had two big earrings, and he's looking at me and he said, Jeff, I know your people. I said, my people would beat the hell out of you. Then my manager told me later I shouldn't say that because they're trying to get you to be on their TV show. But it is an honor to be here. When I was doing the thing with Larry, we were like hanging out in a little trailer kind of dressing room like that, and I was working on my Redneck Page a Day calendars, and Larry came in there and he said, how long you been doing them calendars? And I said, well, I did the first one in 1990, so 22 years. And he said, how do you keep coming up with redneck jokes? And I said, sadly, there's no research going on. It's pretty much my family and friends. So that being said, I had to start off tonight telling you this story. Several months ago, I got an invitation to my cousin Sherry's wedding in Alabama. And I got the feeling that it was a hurry-up wedding. Because the invitation was a fax. You might be a redneck. And at the bottom, somebody had written BYOLC, which we learned meant bring your own lawn chair, because they were getting married in Sherry's parents' backyard because apparently the OBGYN told them they didn't have 6 weeks to wait on the church. Well, my mom was at my house that day, and I started making jokes about it being a hurry-up wedding, and my mother got mad. My mother said, don't you dare say anything about Sherry. She is the sweetest girl alive. She never tells anybody no about anything. Pretty much that's why we're having to go to Alabama now. But my mama knows everything. I said, so Mama, how did she meet this guy? My mama said, they met in a laundromat. So you know right there it was anointed by God. She said, but Sherry needed change for the dryer, and this guy Dustin just came over and gave her half a roll of quarters, which I'm pretty sure then under Alabama law she was required to have sex with him. Well, my mom wants to go to the wedding, and my mother doesn't drive on the interstate anymore, and so she wants us to take her. And so I can't tell my mother no, and I'll go, all right, we'll go. Well, immediately my mom starts pitching for us to stay at my Uncle Ray Ray and Aunt Tina's house. And I don't want to do that because I'm allergic to ferrets. And so I said to my mom, I said, Mom, why don't we just stop at the Motel 6 in Dothan, Alabama? And my mother said, and I quote, well, I don't want people thinking we're uppity. Which in my family is a possibility. One year at the family reunion, my brother brought 3 buckets of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and all day people were like, what's up, Donald Trump? So at the risk of being uppity, we stopped at the Motel 6 in Dothan, Alabama. And if I had known that it was chili cook-off weekend in Dothan, I would have called ahead and made a reservation, because they only had 1 room available, and from the smell of it, some of the past chili cook-off winners had stayed there. But when the lady at the desk said 1 room, in my mind, I'm thinking 2 double beds. Well, we get to the room, and there's 1 queen-size bed for me, my wife, and my mother. And my wife's not happy because she knows she's in the middle. Because if I wake up spooning with the wrong person, it is going to take years of therapy to get me back right again. Well, you learn stuff when you're on the road. And that night we learned that the walls of the Motel 6 in Dothan, Alabama are apparently made out of toilet paper because the couple in the room next to us liked each other. A lot. and loudly. And me and my wife and my mother lay in that queen-size bed and listened to them like each other for an hour and a half. At which point my wife turned to me and said, "You need to do something." I said, "I'm about to walk next door and ask for his autograph." An hour and a half? It's 2 years' work for me. Well, the next morning we're getting ready and I hear them leaving their room. Well, I want to see them. Because when you listen to this, you have this mental image of what they look like. So I go and crack the door and peek out in the hall. I wish I had never done it. Oh, they were big uns. Big. I think half the moaning and groaning was them trying to take their socks off. So we leave Dothan and we drive down to my Uncle Wayne's house. Well, there's cars parked all up and down the street, so we have to walk down the street. Well, as we're walking up the driveway, there's a pickup truck in the driveway, and from behind it looks like somebody's passed out against the passenger window. I'm like, what the heck? I woke up next to the truck. In the passenger seat with a seatbelt on is a dead deer. You can't make that up. And the doors are locked. I go in the house, I said, "What's the story with the deer in the truck?" And my cousin Scott said, "Well, we hid it on the way over here, but I didn't want to leave it in the bed because I thought somebody might steal it." They think somebody's going to steal a deer at a family wedding. So we visit a while, and then they tell everybody to grab their lawn chairs. Well, we go out in the backyard where the ceremony is going to take place, and they have decided that the altar for the wedding is going to be the redwood deck of the above-ground pool. And the entire deck and pool are covered in colored Christmas lights. I leaned over to my brother, I said, "Wonder how long it took to put up the wedding decorations." He said, "Well, we were here 2 years ago and they were up then, so I don't think they ever come down." Well, my cousin Sherry comes out for the wedding and she is wearing a snow white wedding dress. She is 8 months pregnant in a snow white dress. I'm looking for a big star or 3 guys riding camels up the driveway. My mother leans over and said, "That's the same dress her mother got married in." I'm doing the math and the only answer I can come up with is ho squared. So, oh, no, you can't start to laugh and then change your mind. No, he went, "Aww." Well, they finished the ceremony. The reception's right there in the same backyard. The guy that was the best man is now the DJ. He's wearing tuxedo pants with no shirt. He's lighting firecrackers with his cigarette, and he's throwing them at Sherry's grandmother's feet just to hear her cuss. And she's good. Sherry's mother, Donna, is walking around with a styrofoam cooler full of Ziploc bags of birdseed because she said Sherry read online that if you throw rice and the birds eat it, that when the birds drink water later, the rice expands and it'll kill them. So she wants people to throw birdseed, which we did. And to this day, I have not had the heart to tell her 2 hours after they left, her little brothers were in the front yard with pellet guns shooting the birds, eating the birdseed. Well, when they got in the car, most people just drive off, not my relatives. They get in Dustin's Camaro and proceed to do donuts in my Uncle Wayne's front yard. Third time around, her door flew open. I am standing next to her grandmother who threw her beer on the ground and said, "If this lasts 6 months, I'll kiss a good man's ass." So, Jeff, where do you come up with those redneck jokes?